Hello, happy Saturday. I just got back from a trampoline park as a 31-year-old woman, and it was pretty fun. I didn't get to zip line into the foam pit as much as I wanted because all the 5-year-olds kept cutting in line. Like when you're an adult at a trampoline park, it feels wrong to like enforce your spot in line. So yeah, let's see here. Okay, all right. We talking about heart rate variability today. So this is a very interesting metric that if you have an Oura ring, you have access to that data because it automatically measures your heart rate variability every night. And I think some other wearables do as well. And I got very interested in this like 2-3 years ago because I was just exploring all of my Aura trends, and I noticed that all of a sudden my like monthly average heart rate variability shot up from an average of like low 30s, which it had been at for years, like ever since I first got my Aura ring, up to like I can't remember, like 50s or 60s, maybe even up near 70. And the the way that, if you just Google heart rate variability, the sort of uh, kind of incorrect but gets at the right idea explanation of heart rate variability that you'll see commonly is that it kind of shows you, it's an indication of the balance, like your nervous system balance, your parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system balance. And I actually, on my website, I spent several months writing an article about heart rate variability. I think it's called like Heart Rate Variability 101. I'll link it below. Um, it's it's dense. It's a long read. It was really interesting to work on because there's all kinds of like controversy in the literature about using heart rate variability as a metric. And there are different ways to measure it. Basically, the idea is that a healthy heartbeat is not, it's not like a metronome. It's not like there's an exact same amount of time between beats. There are a lot of different nervous system inputs that are always talking to your heart, and the way that those all come together result in there being variability in the time between your heartbeats. The biggest influence is what's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which just means that when you inhale, your heart rate speeds up a little bit, and when you exhale, your heart rate slows down a little bit. And so like that's one of the biggest influences on heart rate variability. But there are other things that make your heart rate variable on the scale of like seconds to minutes. Like for instance, the I think it's called like baroreflex or something. Like as your heart adjusts as your heart rate adjusts to try to keep your blood pressure consistent in your body, that affects it. There's like you can really get into the weeds on heart rate variability, and I did. And yeah, so there are a bunch of different ways that you can quantify it, and it's all just like different descriptive statistical methods for quantifying that variability. But yeah, the reason it's interesting is because it can be a really good marker of stress. And it's one of the things that the Aura Ring uses to like calculate your readiness score each day. And Yeah, so it really was noticing that spike in my heart rate variability that got me interested in the nervous system in general because I had had this history of chronic illness and hadn't really found a particular diet or lifestyle intervention that had significantly moved the needle for me, um, really ever. And so I always had this like sneaking suspicion that it would be something that was more mind body work that would actually start to make a difference for me. Um, but I never really wanted to go down that route because it's harder to control. It just felt like it would be hard. It felt like it would be really hard. And I'd done a lot of things that people would probably consider to be hard, like following a really restrictive diet, especially as like a teenager. Things like that. Like, yeah, you could consider that hard, but it was a kind of hard that felt natural for me, whereas mind body stuff was a kind of hard that felt unnatural for me. But yeah, seeing that heart rate variability shift and starting to learn more about it, and um there's research linking autoimmune diseases to an overactive I don't a lot of talking about sympathetic parasympathetic balance in the mainstream health space is very like it's very easy to talk about it in a way that's inaccurate. But in general terms, it is true that your nervous system can be existing in a more stressed and threat perceiving state uh, more of the time, whereas ideally you would want to be in a state where it is in the rest and digest parasympathetic state. Um, so yeah, what did I want to say about this? What else did I want to say about this? Um, yeah, that's really what got me into nervous system work. But heart rate variability itself, it's such a weird metric because I still have not figured out what exactly makes the difference for me. Like that one period of time of like 2 months or so when mine got really high, uh, I was doing the bean protocol, which I'll talk about in a different video. I was also, for some reason, doing a really low fat version of the bean protocol. So I was eating almost no fat. I was probably not eating enough calories. I had just broken my foot, so I wasn't doing hardly any physical activity. And I had also um, there was a relational thing that had just happened with me that resulted in, I would say, an overall positive uh, mental emotional state for a couple of months. Like a sort of feeling of freedom, I guess. So all of those things were combined and created this effect. And I've tried to do informal experiments since then to see if I could tease apart like what actually like is this for me, like does this metric respond to like the types of foods I'm eating? Does it respond to how much food I'm eating? Does it respond to my activity levels? Does it respond to like relational inputs, like how good my, like for a while I was thinking, well, maybe this is an indicator of how good my relationship is with myself and how functionally and synergistically all of my various parts are working together. But it has not seemed to track with any of those. So yeah, it continues to be a mystery to me. And yeah, if you're at all interested in like the technical nitty-gritty of heart rate variability, um definitely go check out the article, because I really did, like, I think I spent 3 months writing it, and it took a lot of reading, just papers, before I even started writing, to just try to understand the concepts involved, because it's very um you kind of have to understand a certain level of like math even to know what's going on. And there's, yeah, a lot of controversy in the field, which I always think is fun. Like, I think it's fun to observe like different researchers like arguing with each other in their different papers. Um, so yeah, definitely look at that if you're interested. And I hope that eventually I'll figure out like what makes the difference in my case, because my kind of normal average level of like low 30s seems to be lower than it should be for a 31-year-old woman, which is not a good sign of health. You want it to be higher, actually. But there's also so much of it. Like, just mathematically, if you have a lower resting heart rate in general, there's like more room between the beats for there to be variability. So that's actually one of the controversies, is like how much of heart rate variability is actually just dependent on resting heart rate. Um, and quite a lot of it is, but not all of it. And my resting heart rate is higher than usual also, even though I I'm pretty active, I would say. So yeah, that's that was pretty rambly. I don't think I have anything else specific to say about it right now. But yeah, I'll link the article, and hope everyone has a good day.